podcast where we go through the Neon Genesis series bit by bit. My name is Keith, going through for his first time, and we're joined by Peter, as always.
Hello!
Who is going through for his first.
Yep.
So in today's episode, we are breaking down the Nerve Computer Technician characters, Maya Buki, Shigeru Oba, and Makoto Hyuga.
Good old Hyuga.
The guy who is heavily pining for...
Yeah, definitely wants more Masato this time.
Which is funny, because Maya's also very much pining for Ritsuko. And Oba just wants to be alone.
I think that just means he's like Gendo, and thus is pining for Gendo, but unwilling to openly admit he's pining for Gendo.
Could be.
I wouldn't blame him for not wanting to openly admit that he's pining for Gendo. The people who are openly pining for Gendo, their lives do not go well.
Sure, I was thinking of the wild situation of everyone's getting picked up by the Ray Lilith at the end of the Evangelion. Yeah, it's just him standing there and Gendo appears.
Yeah. Gendo just appears and looks sternly at him, and then he pops.
I like to think it would, people are like, you know the Goku meme? Where he's wearing, like,
the drip Goku, except it's drip Gendo.
I like to think, like, he's looking around, what the hell's going on? And he looks back, and it's just, like, Gendo's theme plays, and it's just Gendo standing there.
Yeah, Gendo standing there doing the fucking pose with his arms in front of him. And then, fucking, he freaks out for a couple seconds, and then just all of a sudden pops into orange goo.
Yeah.
Turns out it wasn't even the Ray clones, it was actual Gendo standing there looking at him.
He answers him popping the Cooper saying nope, loading his gun and firing at himself.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to face that part of myself yet.
No.
Some weird things going on with Gendo.
Something's going on here and I don't like it. So, 3 narrative tags.
Yeah, so these characters are also very minor side characters that have, funny enough, quite the fan base. Less so Oba. But Maya is, like, disproportionately, like, popular to also just marketing stuff for Neon Genesis.
Sure.
I'm not kidding. Out of all the characters, she's probably in the top, like, Maya is probably in the top 10 for merchandising.
Sure. Why not?
And that's with stuff up to end of Evangelion. I'm not even talking about with Rebuild Maya. Like, Maya was just extremely popular.
I'll take it. I have no reason to not believe you anymore. What do they do? What are each of their roles at NAM? I know they're all text, but do they have specific aspects of life that they're responsible for?
Sure. So, Maya is kind of like the comms officer, I guess, for the pilots, where she's the one kind of interacting with them and monitoring their vitals. She also tends to be the one who's the power of science in human achievement.
Sure.
With Oba and Hyuga, it's a little less.
I feel like one of them is always the one that yells out, "Code pattern blue! It's an angel!"
Yeah, that's Oba.
Okay.
So I guess he's probably monitoring more of like radar?
Yeah, code patterns. I like to imagine he also shouts that out, like, whenever they come across anything, like, "Code pattern turquoise! It's a lamb!"
Why do they have a code pattern?
I don't know.
Code pattern badass. Gendo's on deck.
Code pattern purple. I feel kind of like wistful today. Is that actual code pattern? Let me have it, man. Come on. Fair.
But yeah, the only ones we actually get a specific role for is Maya. But the other two, like all 3 of them are mainly computer tech, so they do a lot of stuff together, and it's more of they have unique roles during combat. It's probably the best way to put it.
Fair enough.
But one thing to point out is all of them are very intelligent, top of their class, like, skilled people. The implication we end up getting, though, is that Maya actually has a bit more information on some of the more shadier things that Nerve's doing, but not that they know what's after these. So the big example is, Maya is the person who's aware of the dummy plug system and what that means, and the negative implications of it as well. She seems to be fully aware that Ray is a clone, that there's clone rays inside the dummy plugs and what they do.
Fair.
But she also thinks that after they defeat the last angel, oh, we're done, we get to go home now.
We get to parody.
And she doesn't understand why Celia's attacking.
Yeah. That does raise some questions, because, like, I feel like they wouldn't have invested that heavily into the dummy plug system if...
Used it once.
Yeah, if it was like, after the Last Angel shows up, everything's over, we're all good now. Like, I understand it's good to have a backup, and Gendo's the kind of person who probably has a backup plan for his backup plan in case his backup plan fails.
Yeah.
But it still seems like a lot of investment for something that they're maybe never going to use. But then again, I guess that's exactly what ends up happening.
Yeah. Yeah, she seems to know a bit more what's going on because she works so closely with Ritsuko, but that's more on, like, what things really are. So, you know, Ava's being angel clones, Ray being clones. What's that?
She's aware of what cloning is.
Yeah. Whereas Hyuga seems to be kind of on the opposite side of things, where he seems to know only what he needs to know.
He also seems to be very optimistic about everything that's going on.
Yeah, but that's why he ends up, well, yes, the massive crush on Misato. But when he gets kind of recruited by her to do some investigating, he seems to be able to access that information, but never got to it. So he ends up learning about it kind of the same way she is. And who even knows what the fuck Oba knows?
Oba knows that life isn't really worth living.
he just lives for his air guitar. Which I was thinking about. So all of them kind of have a personality where Maya's kind of like, you know, shy, nerdy type person. Hyuga's kind of like, you know, the jokey, like otaku. And Oba's just all about his music. And then I thought, wait a second. All about music, isolates himself from the world. He's pretty much every fucking character that has a problem.
He's also very much so Gendo. He is just Gendo.
Well, Gendo, we found out he's very passionate about music and information and isolates himself from the world. Shinji, very passionate about music and isolates himself from the world. Kaoru, very passionate about music, isolated from the world.
To be fair, Kaoru less so does it to, like, isolate himself because he's afraid of being hurt, but just because the only person who matters is Shinji. That's not quite what's going on with...
The only person that matters is Yui.
Yeah. Only person that matters is Shinji. That's Shinji speaking. Both Shinji and Kaoru both agree that Shinji's the only person
The only person that matters is the person that finally kills me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can see it.
Yeah. But I had that realization when I was thinking, I was like, he kind of, like, falls into, like, the Ikari mold.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters who seem to fit that blend. I don't know that it's all the troubled characters, because there are troubled characters who don't fit that role. I think it's specifically anyone who's passionate about music fits that role, and that's unfortunate.
It's like Anna's like, hey, do you like music a lot? You're a horrible person.
Do you listen to music to get you through tough times? Fix yourself. That's a problem that's wrong with you, causing all these other problems.
Go touch grass.
You're probably also obsessed with one person in the world. I don't know who that one person is and what their relationship is to you, but if you listen to too much music, it's because you're obsessed with one person. Could be your dead wife, could be a random boy you've met in a previous life and you want to make him happy. I don't know, but you're obsessed.
Yeah, no.
Fuck you.
So Oba's clearly the most troubled.
Yep.
Which I guess we can hint at that he's very troubled when End of Evangelion happens and he doesn't have a special somebody.
Now that I think about it, I don't know that he is the most troubled because Hyuga is obsessed with Misato and that's also pretty fucking troubling. Given what we know about Misato from later on.
I mean, given the fan base, is it really that absurd that people are obsessing over Misato?
You're right. We shouldn't do this podcast anymore now that you're reminding me who the fan base of the show is. I don't want to make it seem like I'm one of them.
Yeah, Hyuga ends up taking probably one of the more prominent roles in this series because he kind of joined the Misato storyline after Kaji's removed.
Yeah, it's a similar thing to what we discussed last episode with how Toji had the most plot line because he had the greatest connection to Shinji, and then in Rebuild, Kenzuna kind of took that role because he had a greater connection to Shinji. When it comes to these three narrative texts, he's the one who has the greatest connection to Misato, so he's the one we end up seeing the most.
Yeah, you probably could argue that Maya also gets a big role because of a similar thing, but she's linked through Ritsuko specifically, and Ritsuko even falls off to the wayside for a little bit, which means that Misato is the main connection to Ritsuko as a character.
Yeah. And then if you think about Oba, it's much like the fucking Hikari situation where he has no connections to anyone who matters, so we do not follow his character.
His big thing is that he gives a gun to Maya and says, you know how to use this, right?
Yeah. You put it in your mouth and then you pull the trigger. That's how I've been training to use mine.
I mean, he's pretty down for shooting all those ceiling guys coming in.
To be fair, that's kind of like a suicide by cop type situation where he knows if he shoots enough of these people, they'll be determined to shoot him back, so that's what he's going for. Doesn't have the guts to put the gun in his mouth and pull the trigger, but absolutely has the guts to encourage other people to do it for him.
Just puts in his earbuds, it's like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Let's fucking dance, motherfucker.
But yeah, like, even during the time jump, well, I guess during the time jump, Maya ends up becoming the most fleshed out character for Rebuild.
Yeah.
But for the initial part, we don't get a lot about them except for, like, key, strong personality traits. Maya seems to have sort of longing for Ritsuko, which it seems to be more like an admiration for, like, a superior, like, oh, admire the work you've done and how skilled you are. But in the end of Evangelion, it gets heavily implied that, oh, it's more of a romantic feeling she has.
Fair.
More along the lines of what Hyuga kind of has for Misato.
Yeah.
But we never really get anything on, I guess, those relationships going into Rebuild in a sense. Because you can probably assume that Mai still has the same admiration for Ritsuko, and Hyuga probably still has feelings for Misato. But due to the nature of how the characters develop, I think Hyuga moved past that, and it's not really a character trait anymore. And with Maya, she got hardened, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Because she kind of turns into, like, angry drill sergeant.
A little bit. She grows as a character, and by grows I mean her heart becomes cold and shut off from the world, and that's who she becomes.
Yeah, I think it's more if she sees past her naivety from the
Yeah.
original.
That's a fair way to put it.
Like, it's exemplified by the fact that she's kind of yelling at people and all that stuff, but then after she praises them when they do the good work and all that. So I think it's more of she understands that's like the lenience that she had wasn't acceptable in the current climate.
Yeah.
But she seems to have moved on more to the role that Ritsuko had in the original run for the team with Relay, whereas Ritsuko takes on more of a Phoenix role.
Yeah. Little. Let's never talk about that. What? Do they have Avas associated with them?
No. They're always the command center people.
Do they have parents?
One would assume.
Fair. I should specify, do they have living parents?
Well, all of them, they're kind of like the last generation of people that witnessed the world pre-Impact.
Fair.
Because they would have been children when Impact happened. Much like Misato and Kaji were. Whereas, you know, people afterwards, so Shinji, were looking forward into the new world.
Yeah.
So, really, it's kind of impressive. Like, well, first off, there was a lot of shit that went down during Impact.
Yeah.
Like, there was wars and stuff. So they've all lived through some shit. Like Kaji and Misato have, clearly. So, first off, impressive that Maya is that optimistic after all of that.
True.
But the other one is, you can understand where Oba's coming from as well. Because I assume Batman gets the vibe of someone who's seen some shit as well.
Yeah, that gives the vibe of a man who's lived through a couple of world wars plus an extinction level event.
Exactly. Well, the extinction level came first, because of the resource wars afterwards.
Yeah.
Where the UN ended up becoming a world superpower.
Good for them. Anything else to talk about for these guys then? I feel like this one's a shorter episode.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate thing is they don't really have a lot of changes or nuances between, I guess, timelines is the best way to put it. They all kind of always fit into the same roles and repeat themselves, and Oba and Hyuga pretty much get, you know, just a nod in the Rebuild series. I mean, I guess we can talk about the fact that as they age up, Hyuga seems to be balding. And
Let's not talk about adult men who are balding. That's just gonna make me sad.
Oba gets longer hair and a goatee.
Good for him.
Oba plays air guitar a lot.
Do any of the others play air instruments?
No, but Hyuga does read a lot of comic books.
Good for him. Good to have a hobby while you're losing your hair.
And Maya likes cute things.
Not really a hobby, but sure, that's a thing.
Are you sure it's not a hobby?
Liking cute things? You know what? No, I take it back. That could be called a hobby.
Yeah, you got like, you know, kind of like the SD animal cartoon things on, like stickers of them on her computer and all that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll allow it. I'll call that a hobby.
But yeah, overall, Makoto and not a direct idea of what's going on with Nerve, but I think they understand the severity of everything where Maya doesn't, because both of them seem unfazed by the fact that Seele is attacking them. Although I don't think they know what Seele is specifically. It's like, oh, we're being attacked by the UN.
I find that interesting now that you think about it, because Maya seems to have the greatest level of understanding of what's going on with like the cloning, but seems to have no understanding of what's going on with Seele or the UN attacking. Whereas the other two, well, I don't know what Oba knows. Oba's a fucking question mark in my book. But Hyuga seems to have no idea what's going on with the clones and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But seems to be well aware of, or not aware, but unsurprised when Seele attacks.
Well, I think that's more so because he's also doing the digging with Misato.
So at that point, he has done a bit more research and perhaps developed a clearer picture.
Yeah. Well, maybe Oba knows a lot more than he's letting on. Maybe Oba knows everything.
Maybe Oba's actually a Kaoru from a previous loop that somehow just became a real boy.
But also in the same world with another Kaoru.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Kaoru's questionable. He could have created himself again.
Yeah, I guess, much like a bunch of the other characters, they're always constant, but they're a constant that doesn't need any tweaking, I guess, if you look at it from the Kaoru plane.
Yeah. Not a lot of changes going with him. Which makes sense, because I can't think of a single scene where any one of them directly interacted with Shinji. Like, Maya kind of through the computer system, like, checking on his vitals and stuff. But...
Well, I don't know, because Oba interacts with... I can't remember if it's Oba or Makoto, which just goes to show that how little they put into the character. But the part where after the Bardio fight happens, and he breaks the entry pod that has Toji in it, and he's on top of Nervich stomping on it, and the person's like, no, you can't do that. What?
Yeah, that's fair.
Calm down, Shinji!
I guess they did briefly talk to Shinji.
Maya's in the same room as Shinji a few times.
And I guess Kaoru decided that's the exact right level of interaction with Shinji. Doesn't want anyone getting any closer with Shinji than that from the Nervich.
Yeah, the coffee machine incident where Kaji's flirting with somebody, he's flirting with Maya.
Oh, right. And then he ends up flirting even more aggressively with Shinji, and Shinji gets uncomfortable.
But I'm a girl. I'm not a girl.
What's that matter, Shinji? Well, I don't think I have any questions. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Again, just to show the enthusiasm of the characters, there was no questions that we got from these ones.
To be fair, we did get one question, which I'm going to address since you're clearly afraid to. And it's just sex, question mark? Which if you're talking about biologically, male, male, female. If you're talking about, like, society-wise, gender's a spectrum. Who knows? They never self-identified, so we can't tell for sure what gender they identify as.
Oba will probably be, like, a guitar.
Yeah, Oba identifies as a guitar. Hyuga identifies as whatever Misato wants him to. Maya's a question mark.
Who are you? Whatever you want, baby.
Oh, that just makes Hyuga so much creepier. Yeah.
To be fair, I want to go back to talking about Hyuga for a moment. We kind of play him off as like almost like a joke character, but he also plays a very pivotal role in warning Nerve HQ about Metarail's attack when everything goes down.
That's fair, yeah.
Because he is quick-witted enough to think about, while he's doing Misato's laundry, I might add, he's quick-witted enough to commandeer a news van that has an audio thing on the top and drive it into Nerve HQ while yelling into the microphone, "We're being attacked by angels!"
Meanwhile, kids are just trying to find a way to sneak into Nerve HQ during the time. But yeah, Hyuga does have his kind of hero moment, that's true.
Well, that's the thing that I think people have to remember is they might be low characters and they're played for like laughs and stuff, like, oh, these three guys, like, people, whatever. But they are still very skilled and they were picked to work for Nerve for a reason. Not like those security staff guys that are looking the wrong fucking way at the doors.
They were picked to work for Nerve because they had kids in the city and they didn't have wives to look after, so might as well look after this base.
It makes you wonder if Seele specifically picked the security staff.
Yeah. Who's going to be the least in our way when we attack later on? Ah, I know. Kensuke's dad. Let's make him watch his door.
Ah, yes, Kensuke's dad.
I don't know his name, but I know his son's name. I mean, to be fair, where Kensuke's a potential pilot, it's not out of question that Seele would know. In fact, yes, Seele does know Kensuke's name, because according to one of those video games, as we talked about last week, they just pointed at him and said, that kid, he's a pilot now. So, they are more aware of Kensuke than Kensuke's father, most likely.
effectively. But yeah, ultimately, they are very skilled, and on your thing about CLA and children, well, they purposely put all the pilot candidates into that school, so they would be available. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, these 3 adults, semi-adults, I feel weird calling them full adults. At least in the original 95. By the time we get to rebuild Thrice Upon a Time and 3.33, they're definitely full adults at that point.
Yeah, I think the youngest one's Maya at 21 or 22 at the events.
Yeah.
The other ones are, I think, Oba is the oldest, with Makoto being like around 25-ish.
Yeah.
So during the rebuild time skip, they'd probably be in their 40s roughly.
Yeah, like mid-30s to early 40s.
Yeah.
Good for them. Maybe careful.
So I guess we'll go into some of the fun facts here. So first off, as you probably expected, Maya Ibuki is named 2 heavy cruisers into Japan.
Of course
she is. Yeah, a lot of Evangelion names are based off of warships.
And some of them are named off of trains, as I learned last week.
Also true. Hyuga is also the name of a Japanese and Creole ship. And Oba is also a heavy cruiser name.
Of course he is.
So Oba's full name, Shigeru Oba, is Shigeru. Is very close to the name of a movie, which seems to be an intentional nod to the movie by the creator. And fun moment to introduce Oba, give a little, like, this was cut, unfortunately, but there was a scene in episode 11 originally that was removed, where Oba would be playing guitar for the pilots on top of a hill, which would have been his main introduction. And the idea was that in the congratulations scene at the end, he'd be the one playing the guitar of Angel's Girl Thesis that we hear in the scene.
I kind of wish Oba got that moment. I feel like it would have fleshed out Oba's character more.
Well, if you think about it, I can understand why that specifically was cut, because Oba's kind of like just a nothing character through the whole series. To have like that big congratulations scene and just zoom in on him like just shredding the guitar to Angel's Girl Thesis, which, like, first off, why is he here doing this? Second, how does he know Angel's Girl Thesis?
Yeah, that was the reason why I feel like it would flesh out his character the most, is the fact that now canonically he knows the song Cruel Angel's Thesis.
Which had some weird implications about his existence in this universe.
That are just some weird implications about, much like Kaoru, I already said Oba is just a Kaoru from another timeline, and much like Kaoru, he has already watched Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Too much power for one man.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, that's one of the things about these 3 characters is if they needed to cut stuff for time, it was usually these 3.
Yeah.
And Oba got the most cuts. And I would have loved to see that scene of him just on the hill playing the guitar for the pilots. In fact, I think we just need scenes with like just him popping up in the background. Like you hear like a soft instrumental in the background, and like the camera pans, you see him just walking in.
Have they made an Evangelion rhythm game yet, which is just Oba playing guitar, and you have to do the rhythm game while he plays the guitar?
Oba Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah. Dance, dance, Oba.
Well, they did have Dances for Evolution of the universe, though.
That's true.
Dance like you want to win after all.
True.
So, is there anything in particular that you had left over to ask, or do you want to just give your opinions on these characters?
I want to talk some more before I give my opinions, but I have no questions to ask, so I don't know what we would talk about. But, like, this is not me vamping, this is me preparing to start talking about a sentence that I will come up with by the end of the sentence, except I'm not coming up with it. I already know what it is, this is just me mentally preparing to say the sentence. And the sentence is that there's nothing else to talk about with these characters, so let's just talk about what we think of these characters.
That's fair. I think, due to the nature of it, Oba is the least favorite character of the 3.
I disagree. After what we discussed about Oba today, Oba's quickly becoming my favorite of the 3.
Maya is probably my favorite.
Maya was my favorite before we recorded this episode.
Especially, I think, funny enough, the thing that nailed down like how much I enjoy Maya's character was in Rebuild. It's like, this is why I detest young men.
Yeah.
That's pretty much your catchphrase. It's the equivalent to like Mario, like, let's go. And
Let's
it's
go.
just her like, I detest young men.
Fucking young men. And then Hyuga. Honestly, a pretty solid character, just doesn't stand out next to Maya and guitar shredding Oba.
Yeah, he gets one. Well, that's the thing to think about it. Most of these characters get a stand-up moment. Oba doesn't. I mean, Oba's stand-up moment is the fact that he has no loved ones, and then he gets massacred by the radio swarm.
What are you talking about? Oba's stand-up moment is the deleted scene of him shredding Cruel Angel's Thesis. But yes, you're right. He doesn't get a proper scene. So I can understand why most people would disagree with me and say that he's not as good as Hyuga.
Yeah, and then obviously Hyuga, he has the one stand-up moment with the Metaril fight, and then he's kind of just there to give Misato information.
Yeah.
But then Maya actually gets a lot of fleshed-out scenes herself, where she's not just giving information, she's actually adding to the scene, is the best way to put it. Especially when she's having dialogue with Ritsuko. It's not just her giving information, Ritsuko, oh, here's the reports you wanted, they say this. It's her actually, like, when they're talking about the Domino system, for example, she actually, like, I don't like where this is going. Like, ethically, this is very shady. She's like, well, that's what we need to fight angels. Like, they have a dialogue that's actually adding to the scene and not just a transfer of information.
Well, the man I'm fucking really wants this to happen, so it's gonna happen.
Oh, I understand. There you go.
The woman I want to be fucking seems to want it to happen, so that the man she's fucking will be happy. What? Nothing.
What do you say we make this a quadruple?
I know you're already in a thruple. Isn't it a couple? Trust me, he thinks it's a thruple. Let's make it a quadruple. You ever been on a double date with your boyfriend and your boyfriend's dead wife and a girl who has a crush on you? Want to try it?
This is like a double date.
It's still a double date, it's just the pairings, you don't see them. The pairings swap throughout the night. They're always trying different pairings.
That's just a swing party.
Yeah, it's a swinger party with two couples. Oh, God. Well then. I don't know. Solid characters.
Yeah, they're definitely fun, interesting characters. There's a fan base for them for a reason. What we do have is interesting. It's just some of those few characters that we don't have a lot of fleshing out, and it would be nice to get more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of do like, what is it? How in Marvel they have like damage control, or in DC Comics they have like Gotham PD, like sort of lines where it's like not the big stuff going on, it's the more ground level things. Just like have a bunch of short stories, like a day at Nerve HQ. You just have these characters like have little interactions and stuff.
No angel attacks, nothing going on. It's just these three people going through what a normal day looks like to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of it, for all three characters, most of it is just fending off flirting from Kaji.
That's
Alrighty then.
So if you had any questions that you would like asked about these characters that were not answered, please send us an email, whatismypodcastabout@gmail.com. You can also reach out there for anything else, really, and we might read it off on the podcast. On top of that, this episode comes out every Wednesday on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. Please like, favorite, subscribe, interact, pass it on to a friend. Word of mouth definitely helps with passing it on. On top of that, you can also follow us on our Instagram page, where we update facts and little trivia pieces about the series in a chronological order as we go through it. We also have weekend polls where you can interact with the fan base, as well as get some feedback on that.
Yeah, you'll probably also, around the time this came out, see polls about what our next topic is going to be about. You get to choose the order again, much like when we did the pilots.
Exactly. So the next episode, you'll be determining. We're going to be talking about either Gendo, Misato, or Ritsuko, and the order we do that, much like we did with the pilots, is going to be determined by you from the results of that poll. That should be going up soon after this episode, so make sure to vote on that if you want a certain character to come first.
Yeah. So it feels a little bit weird to ask this, but given what we just discussed, Keith, what are we talking about next time on this podcast?
I just told you.
True. But will there be plenty of fan service?
Yes, it's Gendo.